Hello Nordangia students and welcome to tutorial 6 on programming using Visual Basic, and we're going to look at first of all more information about identifiers, so variables and constants, what they are and how they're used, and then I'll introduce you to some consolidation challenges to help build on what you already know from the previous teachings. So what we're looking at is we want to get you to apply what you've learned to the following challenges to consolidate your learning. So a bit about the identifiers, variables and constants, what they are, where you use them, why do you use them, and what the difference is. So first, computers process data. That's what they do, right? They are there to process data. Their data is input, then it's processed, and then the results are output. The data that is processed may be of different types, but every type of data used by a program must be declared. So, for example, the computer must be told beforehand what data is to be used, what it is called, and what type of data it is. So this is done using a variety of different statements. So there are two. One in Visual Basic, one is a dim, one is a constant. So a dim is a variable, and a variable is something that can store data. That data that will change all the time. Okay? For example, if an integer variable, which is a number, a whole number, is going to be used to store an exam mark, we may use dim, which means I'm declaring exam mark, that's the name of the variable, as integer, the type of data. So here, exam mark is the name, integer is the type. So I'm declaring the variable called exam mark, and I'm storing it as a whole number, which is an integer. And this is basically a variable because that exam mark may change. So a variable might change, and you can change that in your program. A const or a constant is something that is very similar to a variable. It will store a value. However, that value will not change. Okay? If a constant is going to be used to store the VAT percentage rate, we may use const VAT percentage rate as single equals 17.5. Basically, we are saying we are creating a constant. This value will not change. Although when we go in the programming, we can change it in the actual hard programming. However, when it's running, it will not change. So we're setting this constant called VAT percentage rate. It's going to store a value as a single data type, and it's going to store 17.5. That will stay the same. There's two types of local variables. These are local and global. And of course, if a variable is declared inside a subroutine, which in this case is inside an object like a button, then it's only allowed to be used within that subroutine. And therefore, it's a local variable. You cannot then use that variable again elsewhere. Once that subroutine has been run, the space used to store that variable is released by the computer to be used by other processes. If a variable is declared inside a class, so for example, inside that menu, okay, it may be used in any of the subroutines inside that class. Okay, so this is called a global variable. So the computer reserves that space and protects it for the whole time that form is open. So if you want a global variable or a constant that can be used throughout all forms, classes, of a project, you need to use a public declaration. So for example, public and then the file path and then as string. So that's saying I'm going to store this as a global variable. This is the location as a text type. Or I might say public constant, which is going to be something that never changes. Pi as a double type, and it stores the value 3.1415927. We've already seen some data types earlier. How the operators, these are the operators you can use, that can be used. For example, so we start down here, we have the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. The reverse of the division is called an integer division, which means if I do 6 divided by 2, it will give me the result 3. If I do 7 divided by 2 as an integer division, it will still give me 3. Why is that? Because you're just actually doing, you're only looking for the whole number. Mod is the remainder when the numbers are divided. So for example, 7 divided by 2 is actually 3 remainder 1. Okay. However, the answer will just give me 1. The second to last one is exponent or power. So if I say 3 to the power of 2, it will then do 3 times 3, which is 9. And string concatenation, which will just join things together. Obviously here, I can also use the plus symbol to then join 2 things together. So here, just an example, I'm assigning, declaring a variable called num1 as a single, num2 as an integer. I'm storing the value number 13 to num1, 5 to num2. When I do num1 divide by num2, it gives me 2.6. An integer division will give me 2. Mod will give me 3, because 13 divided by 5, okay, will give me, so there are 5, 10, I can fit 2 lots of 5 within the 10, and then there's a remainder of 3, so that gives you 3. And then num to the power of num2, so it's the contents of num1 to the power of num2, so that's 13 to the power of 5, would be 13 times 13 times 13 times 13 times 13 gives me 371,293. And if I want to use concatenation, if I want to display 2 strings joined together, I can put Tom in speech marks with the and symbol. Then I put speech marks with a space, so it's going to put a space in there. Then the and symbol, then Jones in speech marks, and then that will join them together to make Tom Jones. I can also, instead of having the and, I can put an addition symbol in there and it will do the same. So a quick summary on that. All data used in a program is labeled with an identifier, a name that makes it easy for us to remember. A variable is an identifier that may change each time we run a program. A constant is an identifier that is the same every time the program is run. Now it's time for your challenges. So the first challenge is to create a factor test program that displays the remainder when one number is divided by another. The interface should look like the following below. So you should have 2 text boxes that will take input, one for a first number, one for a second number, a button for a calculate, and then it will display back the remainder in another text box. So if we enter 24 as number 1, 5 in number 2, When we click the button, it should give us 4. Use your program to find the factors of 189. And a bit of a hint, a factor will give a remainder of 0. So please make sure you pause this video and have a go. Welcome back. I hope you did challenge 1. Now it's on to challenge 2. This time create an application that allows the user to input their name, for example, Tom. And when an enter button is clicked, the name of the form at the top changes to Tom's program. So when coding the program, the form is referred to as me. So I then enter, please enter your name. I type Tom, press enter, and it will then put Tom's program. So at the very start, it'll just say me, and then I want you to then have Tom's program add into the top, the name of that form. And the next bit is when you enter Tom or your name, it will then put Tom's program running on this date. Okay, a bit of research there. Good luck. I look forward to seeing what you come up with.